Hi, welcome to Yoga Selection. My name is Rod. Today's class we're focusing on the Supta Padangusthasana variations. Make sure that you've got a belt. We also need a blanket, a bolster, a block, and you have your mat up against the wall. Make sure that for the second and the third variations you've got enough room either side of your mat to take your leg out to the side. Alright, let's get started. We'll begin with a blanket under the head, and for some of the more active versions of Supta Padangusthasana, not always essential. It might be that you've got a hard floor surface. It might also be that you're working with a stiffer upper back that tends to make your chin lift up when you lie flat to the floor. So blanket, half fold blanket, more just for cushioning here than for any elevation of the head. And have your belt within reach, have a block within reach. But we'll begin without any of those yoga props. We'll be working initially more actively with the first variation of Supta Padangusthasana. It's the one where we take our leg vertically upwards. Just as a starting point, we're lying on our back, feet together, and importantly, the feet firmly up against the wall. Your arms by your sides, the palms facing down, and the blanket, like you would have it for Shavasana, supporting the neck and the head, ensuring that the forehead and the chin are level. Make sure that both big toe bases are firmly pressing into the wall. If that's not clear, we can bring the toes away from the wall, and that just gives you a really direct access to the big toe bases. And then we want to maintain that pressure with the big toe bases, but we can then re-soften the toes so that they're not pulling harshly away from the wall. Press the backs of your knees down. You'll feel the calf muscle, it has a more firm pressure with the floor as the backs of the knees press down. Someone from the outside will see that the fronts of your thighs are more visibly contained. So the fronts of the thighs, as if there was a heavy weight on them, containing the fronts of the thighs towards the floor. And then let's maintain that awareness of the left leg. So left big toe base press into the wall, back of the left knee to the floor, containing the front of the left thigh as we raise the right leg up towards the vertical position. Angle not so important at this stage, more important that we just keep the knees straight. Let's again though focus on the left leg for the time being. Big toe base press into the wall, back of the left knee to the floor, containing the front of the left thigh, and we feel that pressure, that compression of the calf muscle, the shin bone pressing down into the calf muscle. And then we'll change, bring the right foot down. Just make sure that you've got firm contact with the wall and raise your left leg up. Redirect your attention to the right leg. Big toe base press into the wall, back of the right knee to the floor, containing the front of the right thigh. And then we'll change again. Left foot to the wall, right leg raise up. And we've already addressed the left leg. Let's bring our attention now to the right leg. So as I mentioned, not so important the angle, more or less vertical, but ensure that you're able to completely straighten your knee. So the back of the knee open, the kneecap gripping into the leg. You can see your top foot, the right foot. Make sure that the big toe base of that foot is extending upwards. If it's not clear, as we did earlier, you can draw your toes back down towards the chest. Once you've got that firmness though in the big toe base, you can just re-soften the toes. And then release that leg down and raise the left leg up. So left big toe base firm, as if you're pushing something upwards towards the ceiling with that part of the foot. Open the back of the left knee, and we'll come back to this point several times. Check now the angle of your hips. Notice when the left leg lifts up, the left hip, it tends to slant, get jammed upwards towards the rib cage. And work to bring the left outer hip more towards the wall so that you bring a more even length to the right and the left waist. Okay, and then bring the left leg down. Let's make sure that the belt is there within reach, and that's good practice with Supta Padangusthasana to ensure that the loop in your belt is as large as possible. Equally, you could use the belt without the buckle being done up. Let's have the belt there within reach. We'll get to it shortly. Ensure that both feet are beginning there firmly in contact with the wall. Keep the left leg straight and bend your right knee up into your chest. Fingers interlocked around the head of the right shin bone. Now we just addressed this point, the angle of the hips. Here, as soon as the right knee is brought up to the chest, the right hip, it tends to slant towards the rib cage. So we're stabilizing the shin and the knee with the hands. So we use a bit of arm strength to do that, bending the elbows out to the side. And whilst restraining the knee, move the right outer hip towards the wall. Feel how that helps to then bring the hips level again. And then keeping the hips level, we'll bring the belt initially just under the ball of the foot as we take the leg up. And again, not so concerned at this stage with the angle of the right leg. More flexible people, the leg will come past the vertical angle. If you've got tighter hamstrings, it might be that the leg is more angled back towards the wall, and that's fine. Make sure that your knee is straight in the right leg. And at this stage, let's make sure that both of the shoulders are pressing down to the floor. So we're not so focused at bringing the hands and that right foot closer together at this stage. With the backs of the shoulders pressing down, the chest is nice and open. Now, a common thing that tends to happen with groups of people working with this pose is that the hands tend to get quite close together, and that can have a narrowing effect on the upper chest and the shoulders. So let the hands come apart, the gap between the hands approaching a shoulder width, comfortable, slight bend in the elbows, so that we can, with the belt, quite firmly pull against the foot and keeping the backs of the shoulders towards the floor. The right foot, you can see it, and the belt will help with this, the big toe base pressing upwards towards the ceiling. If the belt is too much into the ball of the foot, it will hinder that action. If the belt is too much into the arch, also it will hinder that action. It needs to be just under the ball of the foot. We're stabilizing the foot with the belt, opening the back of the knee, and then the angle of the pelvis. Again, that right hip, it tends to push upwards towards the rib cage. Easier to adjust it now because we can use the leverage of the foot pressing against the belt. It's as if we're trying to drag the belt towards the wall. And that moves the right outer hip towards the wall, level with the left hip. Feel it also, it contains the right hip socket into the body, towards the center line of the pose. Now, we want to counteract that by pressing the left thigh down. So the left thigh pressed down, the right hip socket, it moves towards the left hip socket, but the left hip socket, it doesn't budge. It stays firm and stable. Okay, let's bend the right knee, and we'll work with that on the left side. Start by bending the knee up into the chest. Left outer thigh crease towards the wall. So we're moving the outer hip, left outer hip. We're also moving the back of the hip so that the pelvis again sits level. And then placing the belt, as we did on that first side, under the ball of the foot and raising the leg up. Make sure that the hands are comfortably apart, elbows slightly bent, the arms more or less straight, backs of the shoulders pressing down so that the chest stays open. Make sure that the right leg, we're not as focused on it at this point, but make sure that the toes are pointing directly up and that the back of the knee is pressing firmly down. So back to the left foot, big toe base, extending upwards towards the ceiling. Make sure that the left kneecap is gripping. The left calf, it will lift up the leg towards the foot. The left outer thigh crease, move it towards the wall. Now again, we can do that by stabilizing the foot with the belt, but then as if we're trying to stretch the belt towards the wall with the foot, just enough to bring the hips level. The left hip socket, it's contained into the body with the right thigh pressing down. the right hip is stable, fixed in position. Okay, and then bend the left knee into the chest, release the belt. Let's come back to the first side. Now as we bring the left foot to the wall, it's quite common for the body to just inch itself away from the wall. So it might be that you just need to adjust, readjust and bring yourself in that little bit closer so that you've again got firm contact with the left foot. Then bend the right knee up into the chest. This time we'll place the belt on the heel, quite near the back of the heel, at that part of the heel where it's almost sliding off the belt. And then we raise the leg up. Feel the difference as we pull down with the belt now. It's not so much about getting the four corners of that right foot to open. We can really feel that the leg is drawn down into the hip socket, and it has a nice spreading effect on the back of the right hip and that whole right waist area there. A little more space, a little more broadness. So pulling the belt down, the right buttock, press it more firmly into the floor, and again stabilizing the foot with the belt. Press the foot against the belt in order to move the back of the right hip towards the wall. Now I say move, probably more of an action than a movement. It's something that you feel happen. Someone looking from the outside will see quite a subtle adjustment. They'll just see that your hips come level. So back of the right hip towards the wall, and we're resisting the right foot away from the wall as the back of the right hip moves towards the wall. And then bend the right knee, and we'll change sides. Again, the belt right towards the back of the heel, almost slipping, almost sliding off the back of the heel. We're quite firmly with the arm strength pulling the belt and the heel back down into the body, as if we're jamming the left thigh bone back into the pelvis, so that we feel the left buttock get more spread, more firmly pressed down into the floor. Stabilizing the foot, press with the heel against the belt so that the left outer hip can move towards the wall, so that the back of the left hip can move towards the wall, so that that whole left thigh crease, imagine someone had a belt or a yoga rope in that crease and pulling that crease towards the wall whilst you're there stabilizing the foot there with the belt. Okay, and then bend the left knee and release. So you may need to retain the belt, and of course with Supta Padangusthasana, with all of the variations, eventually we're holding the big toe with the first two fingers and thumb, so that may be an option, or you can keep working with the belt as we bend the right knee back up and placing the belt either around the ball of the foot, so not the heel now but the ball of the foot. Those of you that are holding the big toe, it's that pistol grip action, the first two fingers, the index finger and the middle finger and the thumb gripping the big toe as we then straighten the leg whilst holding the big toe. Now those of you holding the big toe, we're not as concerned now with pressing the back of the right shoulder down towards the floor. The hand or the belt, now I've just mentioned the left hand here, the classical position, we've got the palm of the left hand sitting onto the front of the left thigh. Depends a little bit on the relative length of your arms. For some people it's nearer the hip, for others it's nearer the mid-thigh, for some people it can even be closer down towards the knee there. So stabilizing the foot, bringing the right outer thigh crease towards the wall. Make sure that the left thigh is pressing down. As it does, the left inner groin towards the floor. We stabilize the left hip and we contain the right hip socket towards the left hip socket. Now keeping the left hand onto the thigh, we can add now an additional movement where we bend the right elbow out to the side. As we do that, feel how the leg starts to angle more away from the wall towards the torso. Left thigh press down, left foot press into the wall. Now we'll use abdominal strength to bring the face towards the right shin. So we're lifting the head right off the floor, bringing the forehead towards the shin, whilst bending the right elbow out to the side. We're bringing the shin towards the forehead, but the right outer thigh crease right towards the wall. Left thigh press down, left foot press firmly into the wall. And then head back to the floor, bend the knee, and we'll release and change sides. So if you're using the belt, you're now just holding the belt in the left hand. For everyone, the right hand has come onto the front of the right thigh. It may be that you need to just lift your head briefly and glance at the right foot, just to ensure that the toes are pointing directly up. Commonly, the right foot tends to turn out to the side. So right toes point directly up, front of the right thigh contain, right inner groin turn towards the floor. As we then straighten the left leg, stabilize the left foot with the hand or the belt, whilst moving the left outer thigh crease towards the wall, whilst moving the left hip socket towards the right hip socket, whilst pressing the front of the right thigh down, right inner groin to the floor, right foot to the wall, and then lifting the head as we bend the elbow and allowing the left leg to angle further over. As the shin and the face come closer together, move the left thigh crease nearer to the wall, as if, again, someone had a rope or a yoga belt in that thigh crease, firmly pulling it towards the wall. Okay, and then let the head come back down to the floor and return the leg back to our start position, both of the feet there to the wall. Make sure that you've got a belt within reach. Let's come back to using the belt. We'll start to work now with the second variation of Supta Padangusthasana, where the leg comes out to the side. Our same starting position though, we've got the feet together, the big toes, inner heels touching, firm contact with the feet to the wall, and then bring the right knee up into the chest. Now we can be holding the big toe here, but let's start with the belt as we had it earlier, just under the ball of the right foot. So positioning your belt, raise the right leg up, and we'll briefly start with the leg in that Supta Padangusthasana first variation position with the leg more vertical. Then we'll bring the belt into the right hand, and the left hand, we can have it classically as we would onto the front of the thigh, just as a good counterbalance for the leg coming out to the side, and just to help to keep a more even balance in the body. Let's today have the left arm out to the side. Now, very common when the left arm comes out to the side that the hand tends to more naturally align at the height, the level of the face rather than the shoulder. Just look at the hand and check for that. Seen from above, ideally the angle of the arm would be a right angle to the spine, the wrist out level to the shoulder. We can have the palm either flat down to the floor or palm facing up. Both have their advantages. For today, let's have the palm facing up towards the ceiling, knowing that that just helps that left shoulder blade to tuck under and the left chest to stay that little bit more open. Now again, the left big toe base press into the wall, the front of the left thigh contained down. And we want to avoid the left thigh lifting as the right leg starts to now come out to the side and down. Now, eventually the right arm will remain straight. Just with our first attempt at this, we're going to allow the right elbow to bend and rest to the floor. And that just gives you an extra pivot point to prevent the right leg, like a seesaw, pulling the left side of the body up. In respect to that, make sure that the left thigh is pressing down. Notice if the back of the left hip has lifted up, make sure that the back of your left shoulder firmly anchored to the floor. Now, if we let the right leg come all the way down to the floor, often it will tip the left side of the body up. So it's angled, and it can be even as much as say a 30-degree angle relative to the floor. And ideally, when you get that leg correctly positioned there out to the side, you're able to bring the back of the left thigh to the floor, the left side of the sacrum to the floor. Check that point, the left side of the sacrum at the back of the hip there, descend down to the floor, and the back of the left shoulder to the floor. With the belt, we're stabilizing the right foot so that it can't move, but with the right foot pressing against the belt, again as if we're trying to stretch the belt, pull the belt towards the wall. Notice how that draws the right outer thigh crease closer to the wall. It moves the right side of the pelvis level to the left side of the pelvis. When that occurs, the right buttock moves towards the left buttock, and as we've already mentioned, the left side of the sacrum, it descends, try to touch it to the floor. Okay, and then pressing the foot into the belt, pulling the belt back against the foot, actively bring the leg back up to its start position. And we'll change sides. Bend the knee into the chest. Straighten the leg up towards the vertical. Hold the belt then in the left hand. Now we're just using the belt for this at this stage. Of course you can be holding the big toe with the first two fingers and the thumbs. Equally, classically, the right hand would come down onto the thigh. And when we're working that way, the hand really helps to improve the awareness of that thigh lifting. It's not so much that the hand presses the thigh down, but the hand does detect if there's any lift in that thigh. For today, as we did on that first side, we'll have the arm out to the side, palm facing up. Now pressing the right foot into the wall, pressing the front of the right thigh down, start to bring the left leg out to the side. Left leg coming out to the side should not make the right thigh lift up. As the left leg comes down, press the right thigh to the floor. Press the right foot to the wall. For today, letting the elbow bend a little and rest to the floor, and it just helps to support the weight of the leg so that we're less inclined to tip the body with the right side lifting up. Right foot press into the wall, front of the right thigh contained down, back of the right shoulder to the floor. There's a turning action in the chest here. The left side of the chest is turning upwards towards the ceiling so that the chest is level. Stabilize the left foot with the belt, but as if we're pulling the belt towards the wall. Notice how it cuts the left thigh crease back into the body. And we want to ensure that that action is not tipping the foot. So as you look at the left foot, ideally the inner foot will be parallel with the floor. Some of the actions that I'm describing, it could potentially turn the foot so that the toes angle down. We want to get that turning action near where the hip is. So the left outer thigh does turn towards the wall, but we want to do that without distorting the foot. Keep the inner edge of the foot parallel to the floor. The left buttock, it's not completely loose here. There's a little bit of grip there so that the hip is supported, so that the left thigh bone near that hip joint is contained a little, moving towards the skin of the inner leg. Now that's quite a subtle action. The right thigh presses down. I wouldn't say grip the left buttock. There's some firmness there, just enough to get that thigh bone to lift towards the skin of the inner thigh. And raise up. Now that point, that last point, can be a little hard to find for yourself. Something that can help, and something that can also help in terms of rebalancing the body. There is a real seesaw tendency for the leg coming out to the side to tip the remainder of the body upwards. We can use a block and place it near the hip of the leg that comes out to the side. The distance away from the hip will vary a little bit from person to person. We don't want to have the block too close into the hip. It blocks the movement of the leg coming out. If the block is too far out from the hip, it doesn't really achieve very much. For me, it's about the distance of, say, 3 finger widths with the block away from the hip. So you can just try that. You can measure for yourself 3 finger widths, a bit of a gap between the block and the hip, and then we can always fine tune that once we bring the leg out into position. Come back to the right side, right knee into the chest, Placing the belt then around the foot, raise the right leg up. Now we might just need to check that the block is correctly positioned there, so that now when we bring the leg out to the side, that the block is not hindering the ability of the leg to come out to the side. So it's not any higher the leg, it's just a little more supported. So that thigh bone is drawn towards the inner thigh, a little bit of containment without such a need to tighten the right buttock. And it just helps the pose feel a little more naturally balanced, so that the back of the left shoulder and left thigh can stay down. The contact of the outer thigh, outer hip area on the block, it's as if we're sliding the block towards the wall. Again, without distorting the foot. Keep the inner foot parallel to the floor. The hand now, we can walk it a little higher up the belt towards the foot, and that just straightens the elbow, so that now the elbow is not needed to be that pivot point on the floor. The elbow at this point off the floor, the arm straight. And that's more how the arm will be for those of you that are gripping the big toe. And then raise up, and we'll work on the second side, bringing the block across, belt around the left foot, bringing the leg out to the side. Once you're clear that the block is in correct position, the right arm can come out to the side. Front of the right thigh still pressed down, right foot press into the wall. We're keeping the right side of the body anchored as the left leg comes out to the side. The left thigh bone there near the hip, it's not sinking, not collapsing, supported, lifting up towards the skin of the inner groin. Okay, and then release and come up. We'll look at just one other way of using the block here. Rather than having it as a support for the hip, we're going to put it to the wall, and we'll use it to actually slightly elevate the base leg. So here it will be initially the right heel that comes up onto the block. And as we then extend the right leg up, holding the belt in the right hand, we're going to be coming back to the second variation. But then as the leg comes out to the side, often this way of approaching the pose, elevating the heel, it can be particularly effective for those people who are quite tight in the hamstring and adductor area. And if there is tightness there, often that tightness will have an uncomfortable pulling action of pulling the back waist up and into the body. Tightening, it can be quite a pinchy feeling for some people. Having that left heel up onto the block just gives you a little bit of an improved ability to bring the back of the left hip down in a comfortable way. So there's more spreading, more space there in the back waist. And it can be quite a therapeutic adjustment, minor but comfortable adjustment for people working with tightness, pinching in the back waist area. Raise the right leg up, and we'll just, to work symmetrically, bring that block across. Now the right heel up onto the block. It's a flat block, not a block on its side. Left leg comes out to the side, as if you're pulling the belt towards the wall with the left foot. The left buttock moves towards the right buttock, and the right side of the sacrum comes to the floor. It might be that you just need to a little bit elevate the left leg, bring it a little higher, and then see if literally you can make contact with the back of the right hip to the floor. Feel the nice spreading that comes to the whole back waist. Some relief comes to the whole back waist when we work with the block this way. Okay, and then raise the leg up, and we'll come back at the end of the tutorial to another version of Supta Padangusthasana 2, but let's now come to the third variation. Now we will use the bolster. Potentially the bolster will need to be to the left side of your body. So as I've got it here, the bolster just laying out to the side there, and we can always maneuver it and fine-tune its position shortly when we need it. Bend the right knee up into the chest, place the belt under the ball of the foot. We'll come back to that first variation with the leg more vertically up. Again, make sure that you're keeping the backs of the shoulders down at this point. So we're not so concerned with bringing the hands up nearer to the foot. We're more concerned with keeping the backs of the shoulders anchored down. For that reason, it might be that you let out a little bit more of the belt, have more of a distance between the hands and the foot. And then transfer the belt into the left hand and bring your right thumb into the thigh crease there at the top of the right leg. And you can give that thigh crease quite a firm adjustment with the thumb, drawing it out to the side and towards the wall. Now, with the belt, make sure that you're pulling the right thigh bone back down and into the hip socket. The right buttock there, it's quite firm, it's compressed down into the floor. So currently, the angle of the right leg, it's straight up. If we think of a clock face, it's more at a 12 o'clock angle, a directly up angle. Now we're just going to bring the leg partially across to the left side. So we'll go through 11 o'clock, and it's around about 10 o'clock, the angle of the leg, so partially across to the side. We're still with the belt pulling firmly the leg back down into the hip socket, with the right thumb drawing firm adjustment on the hip, moving the thigh crease, moving the right side of the pelvis towards the wall. At this stage, the left toes and the knee are facing directly upwards towards the ceiling. Don't allow them to turn out to the side. Let's now start to come more deeply into the pose. Now, here's where we may need to use the bolster. We're going to bring the right leg further across, further down to the side. Before we do that, let's bring the right arm out to the side as a counterbalance. Again, we've got the wrist shoulder height, the palm facing up. Now, before the right leg comes further over, let's adjust the position of the left foot. Currently, the toes are pointing up. We're now going to rotate the leg so that the outer foot is fully in contact with the floor and the left toes are now facing directly out to the left side. It helps the back of the right hip lift up as we allow that right leg to come further over. Now we can again use the elbow as a pivot point, letting the elbow come to the floor, and the bolster is there. You can let the leg rest into the bolster. If the back of the right shoulder is lifting off the floor, it means that the leg has come too far across to the side. So more or less the angle of the right leg will be parallel to the floor. Make sure that the right outer hip is moving towards the wall. Keep length in the right waist. Your left leg, keep it active, the kneecap gripping and the foot pressing firmly into the wall. So back of the right shoulder, press down. Now just check that your neck is comfortable with this next movement. Head a little in the direction, and then if you can, you stay the whole time looking with your eyes now towards the right hand. So you're turning your head with the left eye looking towards the fingertips of the right hand. Okay, and then release the leg and bring it up, and we'll change sides. Right foot to the wall, might need to wriggle in a little closer. If you've lost your contact there, the bolster, it comes over now, ready for the left leg to rest onto it. Left knee into the chest. Raise the left leg up. Hold the belt in the right hand. Bring the left thumb into the thigh crease of the left leg. With the thumb, firm adjustment on the thigh crease, draw it towards the wall. With the belt, pull the leg back down into the body so that the left buttock is compressed into the floor. We want to maintain that sense of the leg being pulled back down into the pelvis as we now bring the leg partially across against roughly that angle of towards 10 o'clock on our imaginary clock face. The foot has come a little bit wider than the right side of the body. With the belt, resist the foot away from the wall. With the left hand, resist the pelvis, the left side of the pelvis, towards the wall. And then preparing to go to that next stage now, bring the left arm out to the side, palm facing up, rotate onto the outside of the right leg, letting the back of the left hip lift up as the leg comes down and out to the side. We can let the right elbow rest to the floor as we did earlier. It gives us that little bit of a pivot point to help our balance in the pose so that the back of the left shoulder stays down. Right chest turn up, back of the left shoulder down, lengthen the left waist by moving the left hip towards the wall. So long as your neck is comfortable, turn the head and look over the left hand. Keep the right foot pressing firmly into the wall, keep the right kneecap gripping. Okay, and then raise the leg back up and we'll remove the belt. Let's put the bolster back out of the way. The fourth variation, let's come back to having the left foot to the wall. Now initially we'll look at a preparatory version of this pose. So we're going to do it by bending initially the left knee up, and then we bend the right knee. The right knee comes out to the side, and with our hands we can manually then place the right outer ankle to the front of the left thigh, quite high up onto the thigh, near to where the kneecap is. You can always look to the screen here if you're not sure of that verbal description. The right knee turned out to the side. Now it makes a triangular gap there between the right leg and the left inner thigh. The right hand, it can come thread the needle through that gap, through that triangular gap, and then with both hands we interlock the fingers around the head of the left shin bone. You can see as I've done that, my head has come off the floor. It is using abdominal strength to get the head off the floor. For some people it's possible to have the head remaining down, but let's work more now with the head up, so lifting the head, looking towards the right ankle. As we bend our elbows out to the side, we can use the left knee to bring that ankle closer into the face. As the elbows bend out to the side, equally with that right elbow, we can resist the knee away from the face. The right knee, really, it moves away from the right shoulder. The right ankle moves closer to the face. The right knee moves away from the right shoulder. And we get a nice opening into that right gluteal region. And then release the head back down and we'll change sides. Left ankle to the front of the right thigh, bending the right knee up, interlocking the fingers around the head of the right shin. Make sure that the left toes are flexing back towards the left shin, so that the left heel draws away from the calf muscle. And then bending the elbows out to the side, ankle towards the face, left knee away from the shoulder. Okay, and then release. Then we'll take that one step further. Make sure that you've got your left foot now firmly in contact with the wall. If the foot has come away from the wall, you just need to move yourself in a little bit closer to re-establish that contact. And then we'll bend the right knee up towards the chest. As we've just done there, bring the knee out to the side. And as we've just done there, use your abdominal strength to lift your head. And then we're going to wrap the left arm around the outside of the right leg. So we're bringing the right outer heel into the elbow crease of the left arm. The left hand, it comes to the right outer calf. And then we bring the right hand onto the right knee. That action that we've just worked with there, flex the right toes back towards the right shin, and you'll be able to then press your heel into the elbow crease. With the left arm, bring the ankle in closer to the face. With the right hand, resist your knee towards the wall. Left thigh press down so that the knee is straight and the left foot press into the wall. Okay, and then release. And we'll change sides. Bringing the left heel into the elbow crease of the right arm, palm to the left outer calf. My thumb, left thumb, it's just loosely positioned there onto the left shin. Left elbow bent, the palm of the left hand to the left knee. Resist the knee towards the wall as you bring the ankle and the foot closer into your face. Left heel, keep pressing it into the elbow crease. Okay, and then release. Let's look at one last variation of Supta Padangusthasana. We'll bring the bolster back, have it across to the right side, and again re-establish your distance that you need to be away from the wall. We're going to be working more passively here, so we won't be using quite the same amount of muscular strength. We're using the bolster similar way to how we use the block. It will help to balance the body, but without you needing to do a lot of effortful work. You'll be able to just soften and release into this version of the pose. Make sure that you're using the belt. Place the belt around the ball of the foot. We'll just briefly raise the leg to vertical. Now this particular version that we're going to go to, it's ideal during menstruation. This particular version that we're currently in isn't. So we're just very briefly in this upright position, but just so that you can feel with the leg vertical how that tends to cramp the right side of the lower abdomen. And then as the leg comes out to the side, feel the increasing space there on the right side of the abdomen. Now the leg rests onto the bolster around about the level of the outer calf. Good if we have the bolster high enough so that it can support both the leg and the forearm. You can look to the screen if you're not sure there. The right outer calf and the right forearm both resting onto the bolster. There's that nice softening space in the right side of the abdomen. We just let the body release and relax into that. With minimal effort, we're keeping the front of the left thigh down so that we're also encouraging space from the navel across to the left waist. This version of Supta Padangusthasana 2, one that you could come back to and stay 10 minutes or so, a nice long amount of time, just releasing, relaxing and softening. Getting just a taste of it in today's tutorial, so let's bring the leg back up so that we can work symmetrically. We'll bring the bolster across to the left side, remembering to have the bolster high enough so that it can support both the leg and the arm. As the left leg comes out to the side, right arm out to the side. Firm contact with the right foot, but not overworking the body here. Just containing, not forcing and hardening. The left outer thigh crease still tucked under towards the wall. Here it might be just more of an adjustment, and then you just maintain that adjustment whilst letting go, releasing and relaxing. A natural, spacious opening to the left side of the pelvis, of the lower abdomen I should say, and we want to also encourage that across to the right side. That slight turning action, the left chest turning up, the pubic bone to the right outer hip down. Okay, and then release and come up, roll to the side, come all the way up as you're ready. And thank you for practicing with Yoga Selection.